But not so. Today we learn that it has been yet another capitulation and climb down by Mark Carney. His elbows have mysteriously gone missing.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Reticent to
because
talk
I'm
about
a good
that.
because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
President Trump tends to be A, transactional, and B, very personal. And sometimes he thinks, or maybe you know differently. Apparently, they say that you're the Trump whisperer of the leaders,
I'm not
and
sure
that
about
you're
that,
on
but
texting, relations with him, and you're constantly talking.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Even proposed a very detailed bill, this Canadian Sovereignty Act, which would make Canada the fastest place in the world to get a pipe in the ground, to dig mines, harvest lumber, open ports, grow food, do all the things that a nation needs to do to stand on its own 2 feet. My message to Mr. Carney, steal this idea. Come steal it. I welcome you. Plunder it. I'll go into your office with my policy team and we'll hand it all over to you. You can even get the credit. You can draft it up. Let's pass it in September and let's get building. And we also continue to extend our hand to Prime Minister Carney to work together to get a good deal with the Americans. I promised that and I offered that to him multiple times directly. My Shadow Minister of Canada-U.S. Affairs has said the same thing to her counterpart. So far, no response. The Liberals seem to want to play partisan games and score political points rather than working with all parties to get a good deal for Canada. So my message to Mr. Carney, put partisanship aside and work with all parties to get an actual deal with the Americans that stands up for Canada's interest. We have to judge Mr. Carney by his performance, and not by the standards I set, by the ones that he set out for himself. So let's do that today. First, I was happy to hear that he got the President on the phone. I know that Mr. Carney has been trying to do that now for about a month, and today the President accepted his call. And the Prime Minister took the opportunity to make a series of very generous concessions to President Trump. And I was expecting that when the call was reported that we'd find that President Trump had given us something in return, that Mr. Carney, being the negotiator he promised he would be, that he would get something after giving something. But not so. Today we learn that it has been yet another capitulation and climb down by Mark Carney. His elbows have mysteriously gone missing. And this call follows on other concessions. He promised during the campaign he would have dollar-for-dollar retaliation. He pulled that back. He made concessions on the military while getting nothing in return. He pulled back on his digital services tax, a terrible tax, but you'd think he'd get something in return for it. Nothing. And today, he removed even almost all of the tariffs on the United States and got none lifted from Canada. This continues with the weakness that he's shown on the world stage, continuing ahead with a $1 billion loan to the dictatorship in Beijing to build ships for Canada, creating jobs for foreign workers in steel and shipbuilding, while that same regime hits our farmers and fish harvesters with increasingly high and unfair tariffs. Mr. Carney's capitulations would be laughable if they weren't so tragic. They will harm our farmers, our workers, our people. More importantly, from his point of view, they are a broken promise. They are exactly the opposite of what Mr. Carney ran on. His signature promise in the last election was that he was going to put elbows up, negotiate a win, and match American tariffs. Let's go through the list. He's not thrown one elbow since he took office, except at our own workers. He did not meet his promise of a July 21st deal with the Americans. Again, his promise, not mine. He did not, he's backed down while claiming that he would stand up. And he's gotten absolutely nothing in return. In fact, American tariffs are twice as high on Canada today as they were when Prime Minister Carney took office, promising to deploy his negotiating skills to get us a win. He promised he would have elbows up. He promised he could, quote, handle Trump. and that he would, quote, negotiate a win. Those are his promises, and he needs to be judged by his word. And this was not any promise, just any old promise on page 73 of his platform. It was the promise on which he ran his entire election campaign. And now he's abandoning it. So either he admits that he was wrong all along, or that he knowingly spread falsehoods to get elected. He needs to explain which of those two things it is. But it adds to a long list of broken promises. Remember, he was going to build more and at faster speeds than ever before? Well, you know, he's getting breathless media coverage because he's setting up a new office that will one day approve projects that may one day get built. 160 days in, and he's bragging that he's close to setting up a construction office of bureaucrats who don't swing hammers or operate heavy machinery, but sit in front of computer screens in Ottawa department buildings. And not one pipeline has been identified, not one LNG plant, not one nuclear plant, not one hydroelectricity dam, not one major project has been identified, let alone approved in the 160 days since he took office. And all of the anti-resource laws that will make them impossible to complete remain in place. On housing, he said he'd double home building. His housing agency says home building will drop by 13% over the next 2 years. And the housing crisis has tripled in its different directions. Under Trudeau, it was just that they were too expensive for anyone to buy. Now, it's too costly for builders to build, buyers to buy, or sellers to sell. An almost impossible triumvirate of failure in housing hell that only a Liberal Prime Minister could have accomplished. He said he would invest more and spend less. Well, look at the numbers. Spending is up 8% under Mr. Carney, and it looks like the deficit will be twice the one that Trudeau left behind. Though we don't know because Mr. Carney, the genius banker, still hasn't introduced a budget. And then there is the investment side, down $60 billion in what the Financial Times says the single biggest net outflow of investment in any 5-month period. That is Mr. Carney's track record on investment. He is spending more and investing less. Meanwhile, immigration numbers continue to be out of control. Liberals have lost track of 600 non-Canadian criminals who were supposed to have been deported. They're still on our streets. Crime is raging to such a point where people are now demanding the ability to defend themselves in their own homes because they know the law will not defend them. And rightly, Canadians believe that they need to defend themselves if an intruder who's probably out on bail for the 100th time under Liberal laws comes into the house, and frankly, they should have the right to defend themselves and their property against an intruder. But it is sad that we've come to a place where people feel the law will not protect them, and Mr. Carney has sent home Canadian MPs while crime, the cost of living, housing costs, immigration are all up, while elbows are down. That said, we're prepared to work with Mr. Carney and with anybody to put our country first, to tackle the cost of living. Our purpose is to unlock Canada's potential, make this a land of opportunity again, and we will prioritize stronger take-home pay, safer streets, secure borders, a self-reliant Canada. And I say to Prime Minister Carney and to all the other party leaders, let's get to work in the fall. Let's tackle these problems for real because our country is worth fighting for and worth working together for. So let's get it done. Thank you.
Mr. Poilievre, would you have removed these retaliatory tariffs on the CUSMA-compliant goods?
My approach would have been to negotiate from a position of strength. I would only have put in countermeasures that were sustainable and legally defensible. And I would have also ensured that by now, 160 days in, we'd have new markets, new projects to get our goods overseas so that we could negotiate a deal. And you asked me whether I would have, my goal would be to have tariffs gone on both sides of the border. I would have gone to the President respectfully and said, you remove your tariffs, we remove ours, let's sign an agreement that restores the great free trading relationship that our two countries had for decades and that worked for both nations. That is what Prime Minister Carney promised during the election, And that's what I would have delivered in his place.
Prime Minister, that despite the tariffs in place, Canada still has the least punitive trade arrangement with the United States of any major economy? And if not, can you think of a country or a bloc that has a better deal right now than Canada?
Well, most countries have a better deal in reality because none of them have the same dependency on the American economy we do. So there's two parts to this. One, any access we have today is the result of Brian Mulroney. Let's be clear. There's not a single tariff-free item that's going to the United States that was not negotiated by Prime Minister Mulroney. I challenge anyone to go back and find an item that goes in tariff-free that was not originally included in FDA or NAFTA under Mulroney. So none of that is due to Mark Carney. I'm sorry, I know he likes to take credit for a lot of things. He can't take credit for what a Prime Minister did in the 1980s and 90s. The second, any small tariff on Canada, any amount, by the United States, has an outsized effect because it represents 20% of our economy is export, more than 20% of our economy is exports to the United States, which means that we are the single most dependent country on the United States, and any tariff at all will have more impact on our country than it does anywhere in the world. We should have tariff-free access to the United States as we had before. And that's what Mr. Carney promised when he said he would negotiate a win by July 21st. He should have delivered on his promise.
Mr. Poilievre, on steel and aluminum, the federal government has not yet matched the tariff rate on steel and aluminum. The U.S. is currently at 50%, while ours is at 25%. Would you like to see them raise that up to 50% and match the U.S.'s rate on steel and aluminum?
Well, my preference would be to see the Americans lower their tariffs so that we can reinstate free trade. But one tariff that I will be cutting for sure, and I will push the Prime Minister to cut for sure, on our steel and aluminum, is the industrial carbon tax. I find it astonishing. Well, I understand Donald Trump's priority is to take Canadian jobs and move them to the United States. He's been very blunt about that. What I don't understand is why Prime Minister Carney would help him do it with an industrial carbon tax on our steel and aluminum products. So our workers are not only hit with Trump tariffs, but with Carney's carbon tax. We need to get rid of the industrial carbon tax, and if Mark Carney will adopt the Canadian Sovereignty Act, then that will include the total elimination of the entire carbon tax, including for steel and aluminum.
You mentioned the incident, you just mentioned the incident in Lindsay, Ontario, and you posted about it on social media earlier this week. Do you think Canada needs a castle law or a castle doctrine on the books to shield homeowners from facing criminal prosecution like the gentleman in Lindsay, Ontario, for defending their loved ones and properties during a break-in?
The law needs to be clear that if someone comes into your house uninvited to steal your property or harm your family, you need to be able to do whatever is necessary to stop them. And my message to the criminal thugs who are invading the homes of Canadians in unprecedented numbers because of Liberal laws is that you should be in serious danger if you go into someone's house illegally and try to harm them. If you don't want to be harmed, then don't invade someone's house and don't threaten their security. The law needs to be very clear that people have the right to defend their homes and their families against lawbreakers.
As a European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries.
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Confiance.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.